They said Donald Trump has too strong a tone. Too strong. We have heads being chopped off because they're Christian in the Middle East. We have borders where people are being killed all over. The world is cracking up, and they're worried about my tone. I should be toned down.
Donald Trump on the campaign trail in Michigan earlier this week, giving voice to the dilemma of ongoing persecution of Christians in the Middle East. With Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth back with you on Newsmax Prime. Miranda, organizations that monitor religious persecution are warning of an increase in these types of attacks.
And J.D., those attacks are spreading from the Middle East to South America, which is raising questions about why the persecution of Middle Eastern Christians is not being considered a top human rights problem.
Let's talk about this now with Raymond Ibrahim, a terrorism expert. Raymond, thanks for spending some time with us here on Newsmax Prime.
Hi, J.D. and Miranda.
We're so glad to have you back, Raymond.
Thank you.
Just how severe is the problem, specifically in the Middle East?
It's immensely severe. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest human rights tragedies of our time, and it's the one that you're not hearing about, as you just indicated earlier, in regards to the media, or the mainstream media, or however you want to look at it. But and it's not just, I think it's important to point out, we are learning and finding out a little bit about ISIS, or the Islamic State, and what they're doing in Syria and Iraq to Christians and others who've been there actually before Islam was created. But the fact is, it's all throughout the Islamic world, especially in the Arab world. So all of North Africa, in Egypt, where, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood, even though they've been ousted, they have sympathizers, the Salafis. So it's one of the greatest stories. It's ongoing. These are real martyrs, if you look at it. I mean, these are people who are not unlike what you read in what the Roman Empire did to the first Christians in the first and earliest centuries and decades. It's the identical story. Christians under the Islamic State and under other Islamic organizations and mobs and regimes are oftentimes even being told convert or die, and they are being killed. And so to understand it, you have to, you know, here in America, we often talk about discrimination against Christianity, and there is that. But this isn't war against Christmas. This is convert or we saw your head off, and it's happening all around.
So Raymond, let me ask you this. Why isn't the Obama administration doing more to help those Christians?
There's a number of theories about this. In my opinion, I think the greatest one is, I always say that the Islamic persecution of Christians is the Achilles heel to the image of Islam. And Obama and others have this ongoing narrative that Islam, of course, has nothing to do with ISIS. Islam is peaceful, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you find out that Christian minorities, who are the most indigenous people in Syria and Egypt and Iraq and elsewhere, and who have the same names and look identically and are the same ethnicity of the Muslim neighbors that they live with, and speak the same language, and they're being brutally attacked and killed for no lesser reason than that they are Christians, I think that really starts making the entire edifice, the narrative that the Obama administration is trying to put forward about Islam, start to crumble.
Pardon the pun, Raymond, but to hear you talk about this, it's almost become the greatest story never told. The administration ignores it. The mainstream media ignores it, and then you have this perversity in terms of who we're allowing in the country. Since New Year's Day, we've admitted 727 Christians, but 4,205 Muslims from Iraq. From Syria, only 23 Christians, and almost, 820 Muslims in Syria. Our immigration policy, isn't there a need when you see the persecution? Why the inertia from the State Department? Does it all begin at the top?
I believe so, and you know, it's worse than that, because I know of at least two cases, and I'm sure you do too, of Christian minority representatives from Iraq. One case is from Iraq and one is from Nigeria, and the State Department invites all these governors and representatives, and most of them are Muslim sects, Sunnis and Shias and Druze and so forth, to come, and they give them visas, and then the one Christian gets denied, and you're aware of this. It happened to the nun, I believe Sister Diana from Iraq, but even a year or two before that, it happened to the only Christian governor of northern Nigeria, of the states of northern Nigeria. The State Department invited maybe a dozen of them. He was the only Christian one. He was denied a visa. So again, it goes to this idea of trying to suppress the reality from getting out, so the administration can maintain this narrative that Islam is not doing what it's doing. And so it's happening indeed from top to bottom.
Raymond, we only have about 30 seconds remaining. Recently, you wrote an article about President Obama's recent change to the oath of allegiance. Can you kind of expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, The department that is in charge of this, the Immigration Citizenship Department, issued a statement in late July basically saying they've changed the language around, they've made some caveats, and basically comes down to if you have a religious objection against bearing arms or even helping the United States defend itself, you don't have to do that. And it's interesting to me because Islamic law makes it unequivocally clear that a Muslim can never side with an infidel or a non-Muslim entity such as the United States or fellow Americans against fellow Muslims. And in fact, that's the story of Nidal Hassan and all these Nasser Abdu and all these different Muslims who were in the U.S. military. But when the time came for them to actually fight Islamic countries, their true colors showed and they actually turned on fellow Americans and killed them because it's an old Islamic doctrine.
Raymond Ibrahim, we'll have to leave it there, sir. We thank you for your time, and we'll be right back.